So we're going to be changing the equation of sine and cosine around, and we're going to introduce a couple of new vocabulary terms here. So we're going to be graphing trig functions with different amplitudes and different frequencies. So let's define what those things are. An amplitude is the height above the middle value of a trig function. So if you were recalling yesterday's video, sine and cosine had an amplitude of 1 because the maximum value was 1 and the middle of the graph was the x-axis. So the height above the middle of the value, the x-axis, was 1. The frequency is the number of cycles in a 2 pi interval, and the period is the length it will take to complete one cycle. So let's write a different trig function and let's pull out each of these terms with a more concrete example. So these are the definitions then, so make sure you jot them down so you could refer to them as we work on the next example. So let's say we have y equals 3 sine 2x. Let's determine the amplitude, the frequency, and the period for the given function, and then we're going to graph the function. So the amplitude is the number in front. The frequency is the number in front of x. So there we go. We have 2/3 of the information we need. So the amplitude is 3. You could think of the amplitude as the dilating factor of the trig function. If you recall transformations of functions, the number in front means you're multiplying all the y values by 3 in this case. So it's the dilating factor. The frequency we already found was 2. And that is simply the number that's in front of x. So that's a dilation in an x direction rather than a y direction. So this is a dilation in the y direction, and this is a dilation in an x direction. The period has a formula. The formula for period is 2 pi over the frequency. So in this case, the frequency, double colon here, the frequency was 2. So our period is 2 pi over 2, clean it up, pi. So now let's say with this, let's try to pull out what all this information is saying to us. The amplitude is telling us from the middle value, it's going up 3 and down 3. The frequency is saying, by the time I'm done graphing from 0 to 2 pi, I will see 2 complete cycles, 2 complete sine cycles, 2 complete snakes. And the period is 2 pi over frequency, which means by the time I get to pi, I should have completed a cycle. So let's graph this thing now. Let's set up a set of axes. And let's set up our x-axis just like we did with regular sine and cosine. Each 4 boxes represents 90 degrees, but put it in radian measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, pi over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, pi. 3 pi over 2. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 pi. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put my amplitude on the y-axis. My amplitude here was 3. So I'm going to put a 3 up here and a negative 3 down there. Now, I'm going to sketch myself a sine cycle. A sine cycle looks like that. And exaggerate it. Exaggerate it, make it go up, down, so you can visualize where you're graphing. There are 5 ordered pairs per cycle. The beginning, the end, the middle, the maximum value, and the minimum value. And plot them in that order. So I'm going to number them for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plot them in that order. So this is exactly how we're going to graph both sine and cosine. You're going to start it, you're going to end it. You end it exactly where you started. If you're starting it on the line, end it on the line. Then cut it in half. Halfway between these 2 values, it's going to cross the axis again. Then cut this in half. Halfway between these 2 values, it's going to reach its maximum. Halfway between these 2 values, it's going to reach its minimum. That's why we're separating by 4 boxes, so we can start with the outer portion of the graph, cut it in half, and then cut it in half. So let's find the period, and that'll tell us where to end our first cycle. That's why you have to find the period, because that's where our first cycle will complete. So the period was pi. So we're going to complete this cycle by the time we get to pi. From between 0 and pi, a full sine cycle will take place. So now, sine starts on a line, and it also ends on a line. Notice, I ended the cycle first, so I plotted ordered pair 1 and ordered pair 2. Halfway between these two values, it crosses the axis again. That's at pi over 2. So now I've plotted ordered pair number 3. Ordered pair number 4 is the maximum value, which achieves its maximum halfway between these two ordered pairs. Well, this is separated by 4 boxes. Half of that is 2 boxes. So 2 boxes over, goes up. So I've plotted ordered pair number 4. And now ordered pair number 5 is the minimum value, and the minimum value reaches halfway between these two. Well, these are also separated by 4 boxes. Cut it in half, 2 boxes, down to -3. There is one complete sine cycle. We still have one more cycle to plot, because in fact, this is y equals 3 sine 2x. And that number in front of x will tell you how many cycles you will see when you're done graphing. So we should see 2 cycles, we need 1 more. Well, we already plotted one ordered pair. The last ordered pair of your trig function, whether it's sine or cosine, will become the first ordered pair of your next. So if we want to replot another sine cycle, one, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've already plotted ordered pair number 1. We already started the next cycle. So now we're going to end the cycle. How do you know where to end it? Wherever the period tells you to. So every distance of pi, a full cycle will take place. Well, from pi to 2 pi, that's the distance of pi. So that's where we're going to end the cycle. That's our last ordered pair. Well, ordered pair number 2. That's what's going to complete our cycle. So now halfway between these two values, it's going to cross the axis again. Well, this is separated by 8 boxes. Half of that is 4 boxes. So that's 3 pi over 2. Done. Halfway between ordered pairs number 1 and number 3 reaches a maximum value. Well, this is separated by 4. Half of that is 2. Go up. Halfway between these two, it reaches its minimum. That's down here. And let's connect it. So this is the graph of y equals 3 sine 2x. We're going to continue practicing this for a day or 2. We're going to practice various amplitudes, various frequencies, using both sine and cosine. But to summarize, first, find the period. Why? This will tell you where to end your first cycle. Then, sketch a complete cycle. Now, your complete cycles for cosine looks like that. For sine, looks like that. Just remember where the axis is. There's only 3 ordered pairs where you could plot on a trig function. And that's at the maximum, at the minimum, and at the middle. Those are the only 3 spots you can graph trig functions. So if you're working with a cosine, the maximum is the beginning and the ends. The minimum is the middle, and the middle value is halfway between those two. And you're going to plot it in that order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing with sine. It's only 3 spots. At the max, at the middle, and at the minimum. And those ordered pairs look like this. There are 3 middles. Start it, end it. Ordered pair 1, ordered pair 2. Cross the axis again. Ordered pair 3. Maximum, ordered pair 4. Minimum, ordered pair 5. So if you draw yourself one of these cycles, depending on if you're working with sine or cosine, it's going to make life a whole lot easier if you had found the period. Because every distance of that, you will see one of these.